Our story kicks off all the way back in 1950 inside a bustling car assembly plant. On the surface, it's just another day of manufacturing. But on one specific assembly line, something deeply twisted is being born. A mechanic is working under the hood of a gorgeous, brand new red sedan. Out of nowhere, with absolutely no warning, the heavy metal hood slams down like a steel trap, completely crushing his hand. It's an agonizing accident, but the factory doesn't stop. Later that day, another worker slides into the pristine front seat, enjoying a quick cigar. He accidentally drops a bit of hot ash onto the fabric, and the factory eventually closes for the night, but the silence doesn't last. When the night supervisor goes to check on the building, he notices the red car's headlights are glowing in the dark. He walks over, pulls the door open, and the dead, suffocated body of that same mechanic tumbles out onto the concrete. The car hadn't even left the factory floor yet, and it already had a body count. Fast forward 28 years to 1978. Meet Dennis, a popular high school kid driving around with his best friend Ari. Now, Ari is the textbook definition of a social outcast. He's shy, painfully awkward, wears thick glasses, and gets pushed around by just about everyone. They have completely opposite personalities, but Dennis always looks out for him. It's the first day of the school year, and as they're setting up their lockers, the entire hallway freezes. A stunning new girl named Lee walks in, instantly turning the head of every guy in the building, including Ari. But let's be real, a guy like Ari doesn't stand a chance with a girl like Lee. At least, not yet. On the drive home, Ari spots something hidden in a front yard that makes him yell at Dennis to slam on the brakes. Rotting under the sun is an old, badly beaten up red classic car. It's the exact same vehicle from the factory, now looking like a rusted corpse. Yet the moment Ari looks at it, something locks into place. The owner, an old guy named George, walks out and explains the car is named Christine. It belonged to his brother who passed away just a few weeks ago. George is desperate to scrub his hands clean of the vehicle, so he offers it to Ari for a measly $50. Dennis practically begs his friend to walk away, calling it a piece of junk. But Ari is completely hypnotized. He hands over the cash without a single second thought. When Ari brings the news home, his mother goes absolutely ballistic, refusing to let that rusted eyesore sit in her driveway. Undeterred, Ari and Dennis tow Christine to a local scrapyard run by Will, a notoriously grumpy, rude old man. Will gives Ari a hard time, but ultimately lets him rent out a space to work on the car. On the way back, Dennis asks the million-dollar question, why on earth would you buy that piece of garbage? Ari turns to him with a totally straight face and says, I didn't choose her, she chose me. Talk about a massive red flag. But wait until you see what happens when someone tries to come between them. The next day at school, the universe decides to test Ari again. A brutal school bully named Buddy and his gang corner Ari during lunch. When Dennis tries to intervene, Buddy throws Ari's food on the floor, shoves him down, and steps right on his glasses, crushing them into powder. Dennis snaps and attacks Buddy, but the gang swarms him, delivering a vicious beating. Luckily, a teacher breaks it up just in time. Ari, smartening up, tells the teacher that Buddy threatened him with a knife. A quick search reveals the weapon, and just like that, Buddy is expelled. But if you think Buddy is just going to walk away quietly, you don't know high school bullies. Over the next few weeks, Ari completely vanishes into the garage. He spends every waking hour, every drop of sweat, and every dime fixing up Christine. Will even hires him as a mechanic's assistant, helping him source rare spare parts. Ari is becoming deeply, dangerously attached to this machine. One evening, Dennis goes to visit his friend because they haven't spoken in weeks, and he is completely hit by a wave of shock. The nerdy, stuttering Ari is gone. In his place stands a guy wearing slick leather clothes, with perfect vision, a sharp haircut, and a cold, arrogant attitude. He brushes Dennis off like a stranger. Even Ari's mother is terrified, confessing to Dennis that she found out the car's previous owner actually died of suffocation inside it. Sensing something is horribly wrong, Dennis tracks down George, the guy who sold the car. George drops a chilling truth bomb. He reveals that his brother became so profoundly obsessed with Christine that it ruined his life. In fact, both his brother's wife and young daughter tragically died inside that very car before the brother himself choked to death. Dennis is horrified. George tries to open the car door to show him something, but the moment his fingers touch the metal handle, the radio blares to life all by itself, blasting old 50s rock music. Dennis doesn't need to hear anything else. He flees the scene in absolute terror. The next morning, Dennis is down on the football field, trying to focus on a high-stakes game. Suddenly, the crowd gasps. Rolling onto the campus is Christine, but she doesn't look like a rusted junk pile anymore. She is flawless, gleaming with a pristine blood-red paint job that looks straight off the showroom floor. How could a teenager rebuild a total wreck so fast? Before anyone can process it, the passenger door opens, and out steps Lee, the prettiest girl in school. She walks over and plants a massive kiss right on Aries' lips. Dennis is so distracted and heartbroken by the sight that he completely loses focus on the field. An opposing player tackles him with bone-crushing force, sending Dennis straight to the hospital with severe spinal injuries. Days later, Dennis wakes up in a hospital bed, trapped in heavy plaster casts. Aries visits him, but the transformation is now complete. He isn't just confident anymore. He's cold, manipulative, and detached from reality. He leaves as quickly as he arrived, heading out for a movie date with Lee. Afterward, they park in a secluded spot, kissing inside Christine. But the vibe shifts instantly. The air gets heavy, and Lee feels an overwhelming wave of dread. She steps out, telling Aries that it feels like he loves the car more than her. Aries manages to smooth things over and coaxes her back inside. Big mistake. The moment the door shuts, the windshield violently cracks on its own. The radio turns itself on, blasting music at a deafening volume, and a blinding, sinister light flashes from the dashboard. Suddenly, Lee starts choking, unable to breathe. Aries panics and jumps out to open her door, but the locks are jammed shut. He screams, hammering on the glass as Lee suffocates inside the airtight cabin. Luckily, a bystander hears the commotion, manages to help smash the door open, and saves her life. But instead of being grateful, Aries flies into a psychotic rage and attacks the savior. Later, a traumatized Lee tells Aries she never wants to see him or his demonic car again. She swears the car is alive and that it's deeply jealous of her. Aries sits alone in the dark cabin of Christine, his mind unraveling. He turns the key, but the engine is dead. He strokes the steering wheel, whispering to the dashboard that no matter what happens with Lee, he will always love Christine the most. The second those words leave his lips, the engine roars to life with a ferocious growl. He parks her at the garage and goes home, but the nightmare is about to escalate. Later that night, Buddy and his gang sneak into the dark garage armed with sledgehammers and crowbars. They want ultimate revenge. They smash the windows, dent the frame, tear up the leather, and leave Christine looking like a mangled corpse once again. The next day, Aries brings Lee to the garage to get his wallet, only to find the absolute carnage. Lee asks who could have done this, but Aries snaps, screaming at her to get out. When his parents try to comfort him and offer to buy him a new car, he completely loses his mind, hurling bitter insults at them. He walks out on his family, returning to the dark garage to be alone with his broken love. And that's when the laws of physics completely break. As Aries watches in utter awe, the dents begin to pop out on their own. The shattered glass flies back into the frames. The torn leather knits itself back together. Christine is regenerating right before his eyes like a living, breathing monster. Now, it's time for payback, and Christine doesn't need a driver to hunt. Around midnight, one of Buddy's goons, Moochie, is out on a dark, deserted road. He hears a heavy engine idling in the shadows. High beams cut through the darkness, blinding him. It's Christine. Completely pristine. Moochie panics, realizing Aries knows what they did. He starts begging the empty car for forgiveness, but the engine roars, and Christine charges. Moochie sprints into a narrow alley, thinking he's safe, but the car wedges itself into the tight brick walls, scraping metal and burning rubber to hunt him down. He flees into an abandoned warehouse, cornered and terrified. He pulls a knife, trying to threaten a 2-ton machine. Christine doesn't hesitate, slamming into him at full speed and crushing him into the wall. The next morning, Aries nonchalantly visits Dennis in the hospital to drop the news of Moochie's death. Dennis is baffled. How is the car fine? Why is everyone around Aries dying? Soon, Detective Jenkins shows up to question Dennis, revealing that Lee told the police the destroyed car somehow magically repaired itself overnight. The walls are closing in, but Christine isn't finished with the gang yet. The next day, Dennis, Lee, and Detective Jenkins stand in a salvage yard, staring at a highly compressed block of scrap metal that used to be Christine. The nightmare is finally over. They turn around and walk away, ready to put the horror behind them. But as the camera pans down to the crushed remains, a small, jagged piece of the front bumper slowly, silently begins to bend and straighten itself out. If you had to choose, what is your absolute dream car? And would you still drive it if it had a mind of its own? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.